The 1980s was a time of fast money, ugly cars, and big hair. It was a time when bolder was better, and the cuisine of the era represents that. So today, you and I are gonna take a look at 5 famous dishes that helped define home cooking in the 1980s and see how we might be able to put a modern spin on things. All right, let's start with the appetizers. So 7-layer dip had already become popular by the late 70s, but the first publication featuring this potluck staple came about in 1981. This dish quickly caught fire because, well, it's super easy to make, it's insanely easy to serve, and it reflects the era's love for that Tex-Mex cuisine that, honestly, still slaps today. The OG recipe consists of refried beans, guacamole, sour cream, cheddar cheese, diced tomatoes, black olives, and green onion, I believe. But ours is gonna be slightly different. Let us build it. All right, so we're gonna take the steaks up from 7 layers and bump things to 10 layers, right? This is gonna get intense. Get ready. All right, we got a nice semi-deep container, nice and wide / deep sorta. Layer 1, refried beans. These are just refried black beans that I made. Layer 2, guacamole. Good old guacaflocka. Smooth that all about. I like to keep my guac on the chunkier side. Next up, we got some chorizo. This is crumbled, cooked Mexican chorizo. These are going to be our base layers here. This is really the bulk and the body of the dip, I would say. Now, instead of sour cream, I'm gonna use a little bit of this. This is a poblano crema that I made off camera. It's Mexican cream pureed with fire roasted poblanos. Then we have our cheese layer. Instead of cheddar cheese, I'm just using a shredded Oaxaca. The 6th layer is a little bit of shreddis, God's best green. Then we got our pico de gallo, right? Instead of just regular good old canned diced tomatoes, we're gonna add some of this on top. It's gonna be a little more interesting and flavorful. Then we got some pickled diced jalapenos. I love that classic like movie theater nacho cheese taste and vibe it brings. A little bit more cheese in the form of cotija, just like a crumbling kind of like, almost like a, think of it like a Mexican Parmesan, but not really. To finish off, our 10th layer is just some nice scallions. Tell me you wouldn't crush that at a picnic. And the beautiful thing again, put a lid on this, pop it in the fridge, pull it out when you're ready to serve it. That's that.
You have chips?
Oh. I don't have chips. Got some old tortillas, right? We could just kind of, all right, fine, I'll make the chips. All right, we got our chip sitch. Let's hit this. Little tostada vibe. All 10 layers in attendance. Yo, check that out. Look at this. It's like digging into like a fossil record of different periods. Got some of that bean, the guac, all that good stuff on that one spoon. I mean, listen, you need chips for this stuff, but at the end of the day, also like, put it in a bowl. That's dinner. That's lunch. That's breakfast 1 and 2. Madonna approved. Tricolor pasta salad or rainbow pasta salad is another one of those barbecue or picnic staple dishes. Just like our 7-layer dip, right? I think this one caught fire because of how simple it is to make. You throw a couple things in a bowl, you toss it in the fridge, and you take it out when you're ready to eat it. We're not gonna reinvent the wheel here. We're just gonna make a couple changes to make this thing go from really good to special. It's gonna be a nice special pasta dish for us. These are artichoke hearts. Yes, I got these in a can. When you're doing artichokes, a lot of artichokes, it's a pain in the ass, right? The canned stuff can be a little sad and flavorless, but we're gonna do something to them to make them a little more not sad. It's really easy. I'm just gonna put them in a hot pan and sear them off to give them a little bit of color. We gotta make a quick vinaigrette. Schwing, that's oregano, paprika, little fennel, and what else? Oh yeah, red pepper. Clove of garlic. We're gonna go in with some red wine vina. And then for that extra 1-2 punch of acid, a little lemon juice. And olive oil. A little touch of Dijon. Seal that up. All right, now we just gotta add things into a bowl. We have our cooked and chilled tricolor pasta. Cherry tomatoes. Speaking of acidity, macerated shallots. These are just shallots that have been hanging out in vinegar. Kind of lose a lot of their bite, but it's a nice little crunch. Toasted pine nuts. Some of those seared chokes. Parmigiano Reggiano. Some Castelvetrano olives, the green buttery vibe. All right, now we just gotta drizzle on the dress. A little bit of black pea for good measure. A little pinch of kosher, and now we stir. There you are. Colorful, beautiful, classic. But you can just smell it, those Italian spices with all those vegetables in the, just smells like summer. It's a classic, man. Also, guys, alert, I chose these olives for a reason. These are buttery, fatty olives. We're staying away from those canned black olives. Those are the reason why probably a lot of people say they don't like olives, but they might if they were to try good olives. So that's why I chose these. And also, look at that color. Come on. That pretty greenness in the mix as well. We're gonna take the modernity up a little bit. I'll show you how I'm gonna serve this. Right into a bowl there. Cool. Burrata. Because if there's one thing future humans will look back on that defines the 2020s, Burrata's gonna be one of them. Mark my words. Get back to me in 20 years. We're not using those little chunks of weird cheese that turn different colors and get kind of rubbery, right? This is gonna go creamy and kind of mix into the pasta itself. Yeah, check that out. We got our pasta, some of the artichoke, the creamy cheese, the buttery olives, the acidic dressing. That's fun. Sergeant Pyle approved. Moving on to the main courses, right? The stars of the show. Now, chicken Kiev was actually popularized in the 1950s American frozen food boom, but it really took off in popularity in the 80s as people came to know it as gourmet fine dining type fare because, you know, a chicken sack oozing with butter just screams elegance. Is it French? Is it Russian? I don't know, and I don't care, and I don't think anybody actually knows. For all we know, it was Korean. And one thing that you can't ignore about today's food is the Hallyu, right? The Korean wave of pop culture, from music to movies to soap operas to food. I love Korean food. I grew up eating it. I love to cook it. So we're gonna take that Korean influence and infuse it with the classic chicken Kiev to make a Korean chicken Kiev. Call it a chicken Seoul. Let's make it. All right, snip, snip. Let's open these boys up. Looks like a chicken salami. So this is semi-firm, not frozen, but it's firm enough where it'll hold together. Oh yeah, look at that. There's one, there's two. Now before we dredge these guys, we have our classic basic setup here. We got our flour, our egg wash, and our breadcrumbs. We're gonna add a little bit of gochugaru, which is a Korean chili flake, into the flour. And I'm gonna add this stuff, which is chicken bouillon powder. It's basically the ramen, noodle packets that you get. It's just gonna make things a little more salty and chickeny and good. Chicken bouillon has a ton of salt in it, and we already seasoned all this stuff, so don't worry about that. Wonderful. Okay. So what we're gonna do now is we're gonna take chicky, pop that in the fleur and that seasoned flour all over, into the egg wash, and into our breadcrumbs. And then just for good measure, we're gonna do that one more time here. In with the flour, double coating, make it nice and thick, into the washing tin, back into the breadcrumbs. And so that is ready for the fryer. So we're gonna drop that right into the oil. All right, so we're just gonna basically fry these till they're nice and GB, like they're looking now. Oh yeah, oh yeah, oh yeah. Okay, so we gotta finish these in the oven. They're not cooked on the inside yet. You can't probe these with a thermometer because then all the stuff would ooze out. So we're gonna pop these in at 375 for somewhere between like 5 and 15 minutes. Probably go like 10, 12 minutes. 12 minutes. Check this out, our little beautiful Kiev vlog. Let's cut into it. Let's try, I kind of want to try something. I'm gonna go like that. Look, man. It's a chicken ring from White Castle. Yeah, get back in there. Kind of want to take a shot. Delicious. Actually, though, it's really good. I think the best way to do this is probably just to be a caveman. Am I Rudolphing? Straight Rudolphing?
You're Dolph. Not that one.
Oh, dab the Dolph off. But yo, nothing wrong with the chicken Kiev. I mean, it looks kind of crazy right now like that, but that butter, just spicy enough. Got the garlic in there, chives, really good. And that crust, dare I say, MJ approved. Maybe we shouldn't do that one. Michael J. Fox approved. Blackened fish was all the rage in the 1980s thanks to a chef named Paul Prudhomme. I feel like this guy deserves a little more credit than he has. I mean, if you're a little older, you probably know who this guy is, but this dude should be Emerald status, right? Did I say Emerald? I mean Emerald, the chef Emerald. Bam, 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 that guy. In a world of traditional, often French-style poached delicate fish, this just kind of like smacks all those notions in the face, right? It's charry, it's spicy, it's bold, and it shocked people. It shook them to their core. Fish can do that sometimes. Can it? Now, Prudhomme invented this blackening technique and was really one of the first chefs on TV to educate the Gen Pop on Cajun and Creole cuisine, right? If this man hadn't existed, the world would be a lot less of a delicious place, so hats off to Paul Prudhomme. Now, classically, this dish was served with a fish called redfish. Creative name, I know, but it's a fish from the Gulf of Mexico. I've actually had the opportunity to try it once. It was very, very good. It's a super like mild ocean fish. Today, we're gonna use something a little different. This is monkfish. This is the whole loin here, which I went ahead and snipped off the spine, you know, cleaned it up a little bit. But what we're gonna do now is basically dust this whole boyo with some of good old Paulie Prudhomme's magic Cajun blackening rub, because you know what? Usually we make our own stuff on this channel, but I figured, why not pay homage to the man himself? So first, I'm gonna take some kosher. I'm gonna pop that all over this one side here. This does have a little bit of salt in it, but I like to control my own salt. We're literally gonna be extremely liberal with that zesty-tron. Give that a flip. Same thing, salt. A little bit of that Cajun, John. Whole thing should be sufficiently covered, because the whole thing about blackening is that we want it to blacken. We're gonna char these spices directly on the fish. Usually when you're cooking anything, you don't really want your spices to burn, but in this case, we kind of do. We're gonna do a controlled burn, call it. Okay, I love a whole bone-in monkfish loin. We're just gonna lay this in a hot, ripping hot dry-ish pan. Give that a look-see. I'm gonna flip this a couple times. Just gonna do a tiny bit of oil. Help that along. And we're gonna give that a flip-ski. Look at that, starting to take on that char. We want that developed all over. All right, let's see where we're at on that side. Beautiful. We're just gonna keep doing this until we get the color we're looking for. Almost there. All right, give it a flip ski. Oh yeah. We got some nice color, nice char on that. Now what we're gonna do is cut the heat. We're smoking, that's a good sign. For this technique at least. And we're gonna pop this in a 375-degree oven until it's cooked through, which will probably be in about 15 to 25 minutes or so. While that fishy is in the oven, we're gonna make a little condiment here. So we're gonna make a mayonnaise to spread over bread. We're gonna serve it with the fish, it's gonna be awesome. But to do so, I'm going to use this mason jar here. So the vibe here is chariness, right? So I have some charred scallion oil, which I made off camera. Charred scallion, steeped them in oil, pureed it, let it sit overnight, strained it off. Charred scallion oil. I also have charred lemons, which I popped in a cast iron, ripping hot, gave them a lot of nice caramelization and color, and then cooled them down. So I've never actually done this before, but we're doing it live. I'm just gonna squeeze these lemons in the bag itself, because I want that lemon juice and that chariness to kind of touch the rind and get super lemony and acidic, and all those oils are going to be working in from the actual, from the lemon rind itself into the juice too. See, look, it's like a dark lemon juice. Look at that. It looks gnarly, but I assure you, it's complex and interesting. Jar, charred lemon jus. Then for good measure, a little bit more vinegar, followed by a squeeze of honey. A little bit more of those Cajun spices, just a touch. Pinch of kosher salt. a whole egg, and the charred scallion oil, which is gonna float to the top. Okay. Now we just need to trap the egg in there oh so gently, and blitz. All right, and there you have it. We have a nice little aioli for our fishy. Our fishy is donesy. Look at that, baby. Shrunk down quite a bit. So something a little different that we're gonna do is we're gonna make what's called an escabeche, right? Escabeche. It's a Spanish technique for preservation, but essentially what we're gonna do now is kind of finish cooking our fish in vinegar. Anything acidic will work. I made a Cajun vinaigrette here by mixing together some honey, some Cajun spices, a little bit of sliced shallot, all that good stuff. So it's kind of sweet, kind of tangy, a little spicy. And what we're gonna do now is as this is cooling, just kind of allow it to cool in this mixture here. So, you know, blackened fish can be kind of dry, kind of almost like abrasive. So this way we're gonna keep it nice and kind of oily and lubed up. So yeah, we'll let this hang out for a couple minutes, then we'll plate it up. All right. So you know what I call this, guys? This is a party fish, right? Family style. I mean, everybody is familiar with that new American small plate spot. And oftentimes in the menu, there are large format shareables. Think about like, you know, a big ass T-bone or something like that. Massive focaccias, things that are kind of, you know, you're going out to the bar or something, you want to order a couple things for the table. You don't want to like take home like a doggy bag with you or walk around with like your food to the club. Ain't nobody walking around the club with their food. It's kind of a power move though. I got our party fish here. We got some toasted buttered sourdough. I'm just gonna cut some of this loin off here. Look at this. This is why I love monkfish, man. They call it poor man's lobster. It's that firm, beautiful white flesh. It's charry. It kind of falls apart on you a little bit, so I'm getting ahead of myself here. What I'm gonna do is I'm gonna take some sour dizzle, a little bit of that charry lemon scallion mayonnaise, just kind of do that with it, you know, no right way of doing it. Take a little bit of our fish, plop that on a corner, and come on, that's gonna be nice. That's a party fish. I also love the idea of eating a fish and just having like the bone in on a fish like this. It reminds me of a big steak. It's just something a little more substantial and sort of hearty about it, so that's a nice little presentation thing. But yeah, this is delicious, and I would say Maverick approved. For dessert, we are going to take a closer look at the iconic 1980s treat, the humble pudding pop. Not to be confused with its cousin, the fudgesicle. A pudding pop is literally a popsicle made of pudding. Go figure. Now, Jell-O introduced this one back in the 70s, but it really took off in the 80s when it was marketed as pudding on a stick, which is pretty fire. I guess there was a famous marketing campaign in the 80s that made pudding pops really take off. I believe it was team-backed by somebody who shall not be named. Let's just say it rhymes with Kill Brosby, right? Not a good guy. Not a good guy. But we're gonna separate the art from the artist today because pudding pops have nothing to do with that. So let's make it. Pudding pops, baby boy. Today we are going to use this. This is pistachio pudding, and I understand this might be like a flavor that your grandma or grandpa goes for, but they're onto something because if you haven't tried this in your adult life, you should. It's really, really good. And the reason I'm choosing it is because we're gonna make what's called a spumoni, right? It's a play on an Italian dessert called spumoni. It's got chocolate, cherries, and pistachio in it, so of course I chose pistachio Jell-O pudding. Are those little pistachios in it? Wow. Oh. Those aren't pistachios, those are like sugar crystals. Okay, into our pistachio, look at this color. Goes the milk, just like a shamrock shake. All right, we're just gonna whisk that up until it starts to take on some body. We're basically just hydrating the gelatin. Oh yeah, smooth, smooth, smooth. It should look like Squidward's ass. All right, looking nice and thicky. I think we're ready to move on. We're gonna add in our chopped chocolate, toasted and chopped pistache, and these, check this out. So these are dried cherries that I soaked in rum for a couple days, right? So it's gonna take on that kind of like rum raisin energy, but with cherries because this is a spumoni, so in with ye. Definitely looks like baby throw up, but definitely really, really nice tasting. This is toxic waste looking. Like if there was a superhero origin story and like he fell in a vat of this, I would believe it would make him very powerful, him or her. Cool. Now we're ready to put these in the molds. I'm just gonna kind of do my best to slop these in the hole. Zamboni the top. Kind of works. All right, locked and loaded. We just need to put these in the freezer, let them get frozen because they are popsicles after all. But I already have some made. All right, this is always the fun part. Hooray for me. Spumoni! Look at that. All right, I'll take that. Beautiful. Looks cool. This might make a few of you unsubscribe, but this is just how I ride. Oh my God. Oh. So many emotions right now. It's really good. I love the like crunchy nuts in there. Those rum-soaked cherries. The actual pudding base itself is pretty good too. I mean, I think I just like a fake pistachio taste, but then you get the hints of the real stuff too. All in all, this is like a fun kind of like fancified pudding pop. And I like it. David Bowie approved. There you have it, the 1980s Wrapped. If you grew up in the 80s or just claim of age in the 80s or have an opinion on any of this, let me know how I did below. Let me know what other dishes you might have chosen instead. Also, if you guys like this kind of video, I want to do this for like every era, right? The 70s, the 60s, the 40s, even like, shit, we can go back to like the dinosaur ages. Whoa, that'd be kind of sick. But yeah, leave that in the comments below. The best way to support is the Grocery Fund, aka the Patreon. I'll pop a link below. Regardless of if you can or cannot financially support, come say what up in Discord. We're cooling, we're chatting, we're talking about pudding pops. No, we're not, but we can. You can start that conversation. That's all I got for you today, so until next we meet. Later.